Welcome back. So let's talk about the constitution amendments. A lot of them have passed second reading, and there's a lot more to be done for it to eventually become our grand norm if it passes through the fires that it has to pass through in terms of legislation. We're being joined in the program by the chairman of House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, Honorable Adebayo Balogun. He joins us from Abuja studio. Honorable, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Honorable, there has been an avalanche, literally, of amendments. To keep track is a bit difficult, but since you chair the Electoral Matters Committee, maybe you help us with some of the highlights that is of interest to you that will reposition the electoral fortune of our country to even do better than what we've experienced so far. I could pick a few, but let me allow you to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Moving forward in this country, we know that after the NSAS saga, then the next issue we had was the end bad governance. And we know the only way we can ensure that we have good governance is to have good election. And that's why the 10th Assembly, under the leadership of Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, made it clear that the 10th Assembly will ensure that we give Nigerians a credible law that will ensure free, fair, credible, and inclusive electoral process. And that is what we have actually been able to do during the last presentation on the floor of the House. And if you look at some of the highlights, some areas that will actually interest people, well, we look at area of inclusion. If you look at area of inclusion in the electoral process, there is this bill on the special seat for women. And there's another one on special seats for the PWD. We have the image voting, a bill on the image voting, the people in correctional centers. These are large volume of number of people that have been exempted from voting. We have the early voting, early voting for essential workers. You know, on the day of election, there's over 3,000 people in the last 2023 election that were exempted from voting. The police, security officers in general, the electoral officers, the ad hoc personnel, all these people, and these are well-enlightened Nigerians. And if you are excluding people like that from voting, that means you are removing a large number of people who would have added value to the electoral process. We are looking at independent candidacy. We are looking at diaspora voting. So these are areas that we are looking now out for in the area of inclusion. And we're looking at cost effectiveness and time efficiency of our election. We are looking at abolishing the by-election. That means whenever you have a National Assembly or State Assembly member, either by means of death or resignation, instead of going for another general election, probably will make it the party affair, since it's the party that actually wins election. So there's a bill actually on that too. And limiting all litigation to 2 levels alone. You know, presently we have the governorship election going up to 3 levels, from tribunal to appeal to Supreme Court. So we are looking at putting every litigation to 2 levels. The presidential is on appeal and tribunal, appeal and Supreme Court. The National State Assembly is on tribunal and appeal. So we want to remove 1 leg from the governorship onto, so that everything will be on 2 tiers, so that we can have time efficiency. Because our target is to ensure that all elections tribunals are concluded before swearing in. So you must find a way of cutting most of these times. And we also want to reduce frivolous petitions and litigations. People going to court with frivolous excuses and petitions, which are taking serious time from the judicial period. And we want to eliminate the use of the PVC. A bill is also addressing that. So And the one that I believe will catch more of your interest is the one on the one-day voting, which is also on the fourth burner to ensure that we have all our elections in one day. This will not only cut costs, it will also save us time. We're also looking at the internal democracy within the party system itself. Compulsory use of digital registration by all political parties, and which must be submitted to INEC. Clear guidelines by all political parties about their congresses and primaries. And INEC must be able to must be present in all political primaries and congresses. This is to ensure that we have internal democracy within our political parties. Because if we believe that it is the party that wins the election, and we want to ensure that we give them all these powers, there must be means of ensuring that there are also internal democracy within those parties. So these are the highlights of some of the areas that got to do with the electoral process within the constitutional amendments.
And there are very interesting bits of legislation, Honorable, but we also know the hurdle that this must also cross, even when they have scaled through all of the processes at the National Assembly. They still have to go to the State Assembly. But one that has been getting our attention in the last couple of days is that of 33 in the document, which will vest INEC with the powers to conduct local government area council elections. But when you move further down to 39, there's also another bit that is introducing the National Local Government Electoral Commission that will also be vested with the powers to conduct local government election. These two bits of legislative proposals seem to conflict. What is the thinking of members on the floor of the House of Representatives that you represent on this segment as to how this can be addressed? Which would give for the other?
You see, the process is about collecting memorandum from the general public. These are inputs from the general public. People sponsor most of these bills. They are not a product of the National Assembly. It's a product of Nigerians. So we had our various meetings. There was the time for advertisement for people to send in memoranda to the National Assembly based on different committees. The Committee on Electoral Matters has its own website where people send in memorandum, and we have a lot of engagement with various groups within the country. So where memoranda was sent in, and most of these have to be produced, turned into bills, then presented on the floor of the House. So by the time it passes second reading, it now goes for public hearing. It is at the public hearing level that people will now decide which one they really want. So it's about you, every Nigerian. It's not about us. We are just sponsoring these bills on behalf of various organizations, individuals, or interests. So if you have any bills that affect your institution, you can put up the bill or give us information about what you want to be changed. Then we'll call our draft persons to draft it into bills. Then we'll now present it. So that's why you have a lot of views that got to do with the same issues. Some people might feel we should have a different body to organize local government. Some people feel it is INEC that should take over. Some people feel let's say continues and let INEC just continue to guide based on the section 150 of Electoral Act, which has also already given INEC the powers to produce guidelines for local government elections. So these are different views. So it is by the time we go for public hearing that people will now decide. Because what we have tried to do this time around is to ensure inclusion, carry a lot of people along. We have been meeting with various groups, organizations. In the last few months, we've met with the lawyers that are involved in electoral petitions. We've met with justices of the appeal court. We've met with IPAC, that is the inter-party committee. We've met with all stakeholders as far as the electoral process is concerned.
Right.
So all of them are coming up with different bills. So by the time we go for public hearing, we intend to go to at least 24 states out of the 36 states of the country. We intend to at least administer nothing less than 10,000 questionnaires in each of these states. And these questionnaires will now contain all the questions that we have, all the bills. So it's now for people to now pick what they want. And before we even go to the issue of questionnaire administration, there will be a lot of public education for people to understand what all these bills are all about. For example, if you are talking about diaspora voting, I'll tell people should not see diaspora as America and Europe. It is all other African countries. And if you want to go into diaspora voting and you don't have a NIN number yet, a social security number, which is supposed to be our own NIN number now, how do you ensure that people that are voting outside the country are Nigerians? So there should be a lot of education. And in ensuring that, we are already engaging NIN and National Orientation Agency too, NIMC, National Orientation Agency, MPC, all the agencies that got to do with this registration and information dissemination to ensure that every Nigerians get on board, get registered, so that we can now be ready for issues like diaspora voting.
Well, Honorable, and that speaks to the role of your committee, or let's say the National Assembly.
The independent candidacy.
Pardon me, Honorable. We'll, of course, make that point, but I wanted to touch on the fact that that points to your role as a guide in all of this process. So we can get proposals from everywhere and anywhere. But being that committee charged with the job, your role is to fine-tune and know, okay, which is most important to our electoral process. And our needs are quite simple when it comes to election. One, improve voter participation. Our voter turnout is very, well, abysmal, for lack of a better term, because you look at the number of registered voters and you see that 25–30% people are turning out to vote. That is not really good. So that's one key area. Secondly, to ensure the credibility of the whole process, to ensure that whatever result comes out is not the kind of result that about 70% or 60% will doubt, and that's 70 or 60% of people who turned out to vote. So ensuring the credibility of the process, ensuring that litigations are also not frivolous, as you said. So if we prune our needs, or at least our focus, down to those four, what are the bills that you think are a must-pass bill? This bill must pass through this whole process if we'll fix our electoral system. Now that's for you, Honorable.
Kayode, we are your representatives. Bills that we make are supposed to reflect the yearning and aspirations of Nigerians. You just mentioned in part of your program here now that, oh, does this reflect the will of the people? Because we must feel the pulse of the people. We must come with what you want. We are just representing you. Being a member of the National Assembly does not make you a lawyer, does not make you an expert in the field you are talking about.
Honorable,
that's
that's what it should be.
So what we're saying is the process of making law. That's what I'm saying, the process of making law. I am not INEC. INEC is the executive body. Ours is to make laws. Ours is to look at what is wrong with the process, what part of the law should be amended. Ours is to just ensure that what the people want is put into the way it's now operated is INEC. So INEC can look at their process and feel this is what they want. They can now recommend. So in all this, there are a lot of people who want A as a solution. There's a lot of people who might want B as a solution. But it is the majority at the end of the day that will make it at the level of public hearing. For example, last dispensation, state police was on the burner when they went for public hearing. But unfortunately, Lagos State, where issue of NSAS started, people didn't turn out for public hearing to support state police. And in some other states where they didn't want state police, many people went out and supported the removal of state police. And at the end of the day, state police didn't make it back from the public hearing. So it is very important that that's why we will need you as the media. We cannot function alone. We have to function based on the wish and the aspiration of the people. I cannot on my own make a decision that, oh, this is what I want. I am supposed to just be an umpire and feel the pulse of the people. Our essence of being in the National Assembly is when you have natural discourse. I'm supposed to go to my own constituency and have like a town hall meeting. What do you think I should say on this matter? It is what my people say that I should be representing in the National Assembly. And that's some of the times when maybe some people come on the social media and I have a particular view, and they say the National Assembly is not in tune with reality. But contrarily, we are supposed to deal with our various constituencies. I'm supposed to say what my people want, not what you say on television. It is what my own people want in the Bejuleki federal constituency that I must represent. And if everybody represents their own federal constituency, then we have represented Nigeria. But some people, instead of going to their member at home, tell them what they should say, they will come to the television and start saying their own position. But your position, because you have access to television or any media, does not make your position that of Nigerians. We represent the people. We feel the pulse of the people. And when we get home, our people are still happy with us. And that is why there have not been any noise from any constituency. If you look at the issue of rivers that you mentioned, it was a clear thing. Look, when it comes to governance, it's not just about dancing to the gallery. It's about looking at major issues. We have an executive session where some of these things were explained to us. And by the time we had the vote, no consenting voice at all. And when some people said we didn't get the 2/3 of the quorum, nobody said nil. And if there's no nil, you don't go to division. Because some people say, why do we use voice vote?
Honorable.
You go to division when there's a division in the House.
Honorable, if I may come in, just a moment, if you can hear me, Honorable, I don't want to go that part, because if you go that part, we're going to stay on issue and debate panel time and again. You are representing Ibejuleki, but the issue of state of emergency is divisive across the country. If it's divisive across the country, I don't understand how the National Assembly or the House of Reps, let me be specific, will have an overwhelming majority to say the president can remove a governor or his deputy or members of the House of Assembly. Just get my logic. The issue has split constituents, but the representative of the constituents are united. I don't know how that makes sense. But let me add something to some of the things you've talked about that you may help us intervene. I know that this amendment doesn't come every other day, but there's a part I'd like to ask whether it's been captured, because I haven't seen it, just in case I missed it. Let's begin with the very current issue. Shouldn't we touch our constitution in such a way to be clear whether or not in a state of emergency, even if the governor or the members of the House of Reps, House of Assembly are the dramatis personae, whether or not the president has the powers to remove him or remove them or not? Is there a bill to that effect? Because it's now before the Supreme Court to give a legal interpretation, because there's something called discretional latitude that the president has. How far he can go is a different kettle of fish, which is why we're having the situation we're having in Rivers State. So is there a bill to that effect to bring clarity? Second, it is the Speaker or the President of the Senate or the Speaker of the members of the House that gives effect to somebody being sworn in and a member seat being declared vacant. It is the Speaker or the presiding officer. Is there a bill to the effect that when it is now the Speaker who defects, who will now declare his own seat vacant? Does your bill, any of your bill, capture all of this? Because these are ambiguous issues that politicians run around and put us in trouble.
You see, that's why I'm telling you that, look, we are representing the people. If you feel that a particular section of the Constitution is not okay by you or by a set of people, it is for them to make a request to the National Assembly. Then sponsor your bill through your member or any other member that you think can sponsor the bill on your behalf. So if you look at the Rivers case now, that had led to one of the bills that I sponsored, which was also brought to me by some of my constituents, that how do you define resignation or defection? And we now have to put within the within section 68 and section 109B to say that if you are talking about defection, then the member must have resigned and joined another party with a proof of resignation. There must be a proof of resignation and joining of another party, because that was what happened in Rivers now. You said you resigned, and after some few weeks, you said you have not resigned again. But if you have had a proof of resignation from your party and joining of another party, then that would have settled the issue of either they've resigned or not. Because it is when you have a lacuna or a shortcoming within a process that you now come for amendment. And it's not only supposed to be done by the National Assembly. That is my point. It is for the users of the law. I'm not a lawyer, for example, so if you are talking about criminal acts, if there's any issue within the criminal act, I believe it is the Nigerian Bar Association or lawyers within that are practicing this law that must bring forth areas for such amendment. If I, as a member of the National Assembly, didn't see anything wrong with the process, I'm sure I'm not going to bring up any amendment in that area. So it is for all of us to feel that something is wrong, do something about it by approaching your member in the House, present your case to him. If you're able to draft it into a bill, if you are not, you give him the explanation, he gets to the office, call his aide, they will convert it to a bill, then to be presented on the floor of the House. So we are not an embodiment of knowledge in the National Assembly. We don't know everything. You are only good in your own field. I'm an economist and an environmentalist. I can't talk about anything.
Let me quickly get this one across, Honorable. Pretty ambitious bills, but are you worried that, like the last constitutional amendment exercise, where 44 items were presented and then they went round state assemblies, most state assemblies voted against a very important item, which is local government autonomy, which has brought us to where we are yet again. And some of the items in this particular exercise are just as, controversial. Are you worried that we're going round in circles yet again on this constitutional amendment exercise?
You see, when it comes to constitutional amendment, emphasis have been based more of the National Assembly. Most of the time, we usually do our own part. It gets to the state and it gets taught. Most of the state assembly members belong to one constituency or the other. So by the time we have a robust public hearing and people get to understand some of these issues, and by the time it passes, we'll encourage everybody, go back to your state constituencies, go and talk to your honorable members within your constituencies and tell them what you want. And if they don't do what you want, then you will tell them they will risk their coming back. It's as easy as that.
All right,
but if you don't go to your members and you only see on television, you talk to people one-on-one. In my own constituencies, I have my meetings with my people and they tell me this is what we want. And I must represent them the way they want. And if I don't do it, I know the consequence. So we must do the right thing. We must take the power. Democracy is about taking powers. And the power is with the people.
All right,
and if you don't use it well at the right time.
Okay.
And we intend to conclude all this amendment by December. We intend to complete this amendment by December, so we have an ample time before general election. Okay. So you can wait within your constituency. We're going to go to your state, go to your assemblyman. If you don't do this, election is next year. We'll wait for you.
Okay, Honorable.
That is the way out.
Honorable, great point you've made, and I'm happy you're quite honest with your position as to the fact that all hands must be on deck, but the media has also played a key role in bringing awareness, which is why since I live in Lagos, even if I don't live in Ibejuleke, I'm telling you now, on behalf of those of us who are interested in clarity, state of emergency, let's capture it and know how far the president can go. Issues of giving effect to when the speaker or the Senate president defects, let's also capture it. But we must thank you as well, Honorable, for coming on the program.
And on that one, can I get 20 minutes?
No, you don't have a minute. You have 10 seconds.
Can I get a minute?
10 seconds.
Okay, 10 seconds. You see, on that, it is only a court of competent jurisdiction that can decide if a member is still a member or not when you talk about defection. Because it has to be decided at the court. Because there are conditions to meet for you to defect without losing your seat. And it's only the court that can decide that. It's not just the presiding officer that will decide. Thank you so much.
I understand you perfectly. I'm saying the speaker defects, he now goes to court, and then it gives effect to his defection. Honorable Adebayo Balogun, Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Matters. We'd like to have you again as this progresses, but thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.